So the new justice could be a swing vote. So there's a lot of cases that are decided on a 3-4 decision, um, and the next person will basically be the deciding vote, um, likely. Let's just put it that way. I don't know if I said who the candidates are. The candidates are Susan Crawford and Brad Schimmel. Oh, I didn't. I not here you go. I was one step ahead. Um, so in order to get more information about these two candidates, here are the resources: Vote 411, Ballotpedia, and that's where you can go to like get information, nonpartisan information about candidates. We also have a on our website we have a Wisconsin Supreme Court fact sheet, and that it's also nonpartisan and basically just just describing kind of what we went through, but what Supreme Court justice does and how it impacts us as people with disabilities. Thanks. Um, Now we can talk about how do we look at these candidates and how do we decide? But first you have to decide what's important to you. What are the things that are really important to you? And you can find information usually about those things um, on the two websites that we gave you on the last slide. So that's where you need to start. Um, and what qualities do you want in somebody that's going to lead our government? Well, they're not, I guess they're not government, but lead our Supreme Court and make these decisions. What are good qualities? Um, and are there any, do you think these two judges, either of them, align their decisions with your values? Also very, very, very important. And then we can see from the two links that we gave you in the past slide, you can see there what they voted for in the past, and you can see like, oh, I'm not sure this person cares enough about what I care about, right? Um, and then just so we all know, the judicial elections are supposed to be nonpartisan. Um, and I'm gonna stick by that. They're supposed to be nonpartisan. Um, and I think we're moving in a different direction. But anyway, next. Oh, okay, we're next already. Okay. So the state superintendent, they do a lot of things that I didn't even really know that they do. Like they take care of and provide funding for libraries, and I did not know that until this year. Probably like a month ago. Let's be real. Um, so that's pretty cool. They oversee all public schools and they make sure that that funding gets to public schools and they decide how that funding is divvied up essentially. We're off, Wendy. Oh, there you go. Thank you. And I don't have, oh God, you're all over this. I love it. Oh, okay, there we are. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. Um, I think one of the biggest things that a state superintendent does is make sure that these that public schools are meeting the needs of students with disabilities. So whatever that looks like, special education, supporting people in the classroom to make things more accessible. The list goes on and on. And I think it's important, at least it is to me, that that I choose somebody that wants to make sure that public schools have services for people with kids with disabilities. Um, and then at the bottom there's another fact sheet on our website, and it's the State Superintendent of Public Instruction fact sheet. And again, that simply shows what what that does and how it might impact you. Oops. And here are the candidates. Brittany Kinzer and Dr. Jill Underly. So again, with the same links for you to figure out how their stance on certain subjects and what they've done in the past. You can still go on to these same links. um, Jill Underly, Dr. Jill Underly, I should say, she is the incumbent, so she's been in this role. And so we just like to mention that that you might know her name better than Brittany Kinzer. Next. Thanks. So we gave you some links to learn about the candidates. Again, Vote 411 is a website run by the League of Women Voters, and they have nonpartisan candidate information. Ballotpedia is another one with nonpartisan candidate information. If you see these people in the media, that's a good way to really get a handle on what they think is important. There was a debate between the two candidates. Oh, I don't know if they were both there or not, but on Wisconsin Eye, which is right here. Oh God, ahead of me. On Wisconsin Eye, there's interviews and coverage and about showing the interviews with all the candidates. So it's really good information to look at. Yeah, and you do need to set up a free account, but it's super easy. I did it yesterday. Okay, now we'll talk about the constitutional amendment. Super exciting. Trying to get on the right page here. Okay, here it is. All right. So a constitutional amendment is a big deal, like a very big deal. We have only changed our constitution, I don't even know how many times since we became a state, but very few times. And what I think is interesting is we have now, in the past year or so, changed our constitution, or there's not changed it, but there were constitutional amendments on the ballot 6 times, which is, it's just, it's a lot of times to try to change our constitution. So I think it's important to be really careful about this question. Um, it's written it's written in a confusing way. They usually are. And so we're just gonna talk about it really quick. Okay. So here's the question. Thank you, Wendy. So the question is basically saying that voter ID, which we all have to provide identification to vote, unless you're um, a confined voter, but we'll go over that, or we won't go over that. We'll just breeze through it. Anyway, so this is basically enshrining photo identification, or putting identification for voting into the Constitution permanently. It's already a law. So when I think of that, I'm like, well, then why are we doing this, right? There's already barriers to voting, and why aren't we trying to fix those well before we put this forever into our Constitution? And so a lot of people read this and they're like, well, yeah, we we definitely want people to have a photo ID when they vote. And yes, we should vote yes on this. The Disability Vote Coalition has taken a stand on this, and we have asked or we ooh, yeah, there you go. We have, Wendy's on top of things. We have decided that we would like people to vote no. And we don't really take stands on a lot of things. Um, we're going, okay. So the reason that we're saying this photo ID being in our Constitution is not good is because, like I said, there's already issues for voting for people with disabilities. And if we put photo ID laws in our Constitution, they're much more difficult to change. So I think there's already transportation issues, paperwork issues, documentation concerns, accessibility to polling places. There's so many issues that we need to work on, and so we really think that we should be doing that first. And then we also don't think it makes sense to make laws by putting a constitutional amendment on the ballot. Um, and so we think that we should be able to, I guess, rectify some of this stuff without putting something permanently in our Constitution. And then here's some resources about where you can find information about the constitutional amendment. And if you have any questions, or you can certainly go to any of these websites. Like we talked about before, you can preview your ballot at My Vote Wisconsin. There's information from the League of Women Voters. They also support a no vote for the constitutional amendment. They take stands on things a lot more frequently than we do. So for us to take a stand on this is, like I said, is a really big deal. Ballotpedia and Vote 411. You can find information about the constitutional amendment. Oh, and at the bottom, it's a big deal. And if you're like, I don't know, leave it blank. You don't have to vote for everything on the ballot. Um, yeah. Is this you, Wendy?
Thanks,
Okay.
Anna. I'm
Yeah.
Wendy Hine. I'm with Disability Rights Wisconsin too. And I'm going to talk to you about circuit courts. But I just want to comment on what Anna just said about leaving something blank. It is okay. I mean, we would always encourage you to check what's going to be on your ballot. Like Anna talked about at My Vote, know what's going to be on it, and then research each option and decide what aligns best with your values. But also we do want people to know, I've talked to so many voters over the years who don't know that it's so your votes will still count if you leave something blank. It's not like back in the old days in high school when the teacher was like, well, if you don't fill out every blank on the standardized tests, then the whole thing will be, I don't know if that was really a thing with the standardized tests, but somehow people think that it won't count, and it does. So if you leave one thing blank, it doesn't count against you or anything like that. Um, so just wanted to say here to Anna for mentioning that, because I think that's an important thing for folks to know. So I'm going to talk to you about circuit courts. They're the trial courts for civil and criminal cases in the Wisconsin court system. And you might think like, meh, I'm not really going to get arrested for anything in the future. This doesn't apply to me. What do I care? But what happens is when judges make decisions, it it sort of sets into place how we apply the law. So it sets like a precedent is what it's called. And so like when a court when a court decides something, it sort of influences the way that we apply the law to everyone. And so like it's like a subtle change, but it can change things. And it's important that that the way that judges are deciding things um, reflects the values of the people who live in the community. So that means that it's important that the judges that are making these decisions have the same values that you have or similar, or that they somewhat align with that. There are 240 circuit court judges, and they're elected to serve 6-year terms. So that's a nice long term. There are often disability related cases that are addressed by circuit court, like guardianships and civil commitments. And then things like family law disputes, public safety, voting rights issues, and other civil rights issues, which are all a really big deal for the people in our community and the people with disabilities in our community. We have another one of these nifty fact sheets on the circuit court. They're laid out really nice. I mean, I'm biased, but I think they're laid out really nice with these little picture icons and things so that they're really nice and easy to understand yourself and to use to explain things to others. So check that out on our website about circuit courts. Um, wait a second, I went backwards, not forward. Sorry about that. I usually our colleague Jenny does the technology for these, and apparently we're all really thankful because I'm not doing the best job, so my apologies. Um, we just talked about circuit court judges, and then Anna had mentioned to you that there would be probably some other elections on your ballot. I know in my ballot there are some some city, I don't know what we call them here, like city council positions, and then there's also um 3 school board seats open in my district. And so we want to talk to people about how local elections really matter a lot. In some cases, like we all want to vote when there's a presidential election. We have the best turnout then, but in some ways, local elections and the folks that are elected in local office actually make decisions that affect us a lot more closely. They make decisions about public transportation, about our schools, about housing and public health, about when our trash gets picked up and what company our trash gets picked up by and what size container we're allowed to have, about water quality. That's a huge issue. We see when people don't have good water, safe water for their kids. It's a really big deal. So they make all these decisions that are really impactful to us directly. So that's why it's really important to vote in local elections. There are a lot of local elections all around Wisconsin. And again, it varies by where you live. And so that's why we suggest checking myvote.wi.org, because you can see exactly what's going to be on your own ballot. And then a lot of these positions are nonpartisan, so they're not Democrat or Republican. So you can't, like, if you would go to the polling place on election day and not have been aware that there was like a school board seat on your ballot, you can't just say, "Oh, well, I always vote on this side or I always vote on that side, so I'll just go with that candidate since I didn't do any research." You can't do that with a school board seat because that person isn't a Democrat or a Republican or anything in between. They're just a member seeking a school board seat. So you kind of have to know something about them. So these are offices where you probably are going to want to look again on that My Vote website and then look up those people and try to learn something about what their values are, what's important to them, why are they running for that seat. We have all these great fact sheets about these local elections on our website, and those are again really nice for looking at yourself to learn about those positions, or they're great for sharing with others who you want to talk to about voting. Um, so for the spring election, the online and mail deadline has passed to register to vote. So if you're not a registered voter yet, you can still register in your municipal clerk's office until March 28th, or at early voting sites, you can also register. Um, and you can register at your polling place on April 1st. That's such a cool thing in Wisconsin. In a lot of states, you can't a registration deadline goes by and you're kind of stuck if you're not registered. In Wisconsin, you can register at your polling place. So it's really great. So for absentee voting means that you get your ballot and you can vote it at home and return it. And you can, if like I requested mine already and I already have it. I already have my ballot. I haven't completed it yet, but I have mine. You have to request it by March 27th. Our caution to you would be to do it as soon as possible, because that doesn't really give you, that certainly doesn't give you, if you would request it on March 27th, that doesn't really give you enough time to have the ballot arrive to you, you complete it, and you really don't have time to mail it back then. Your ballot has to be received by April 1st, which is election day, at 8 p.m. So it does have to be returned by the end of the election day. Also, yesterday, in-person voting might have started near you. It varies from location to location, and you can find where you can early vote on the My Vote website. So that's a great option for people who who need some variability, need some, maybe you need to plan a ride or something like that, and you can go in person somewhere and vote. So you can find out where to do that at My Vote. You could also call your municipal clerk's office if you're not an internet user. When you return your absentee ballot, our suggestion is that you do it as soon as possible, because you want to allow at least 7 business days for the mail. Um, the the there is, so voters in general are not, every voter is supposed to return their own ballot. But voters who have a disability can have assistance returning their ballot. So as long as, like, if you need help returning your ballot, if you need someone to return your ballot because of your disability, you just can't use your employer or your union representative. But otherwise, someone can assist you. Now, when they deliver your ballot, the municipal clerk's office might ask, hey, are you Joe Smith? And then you say, like, I'm a girl, I'm obviously not Joe Smith. So I'm like, no, Joe Smith needed me to return the ballot because of a disability. And that should be the end of it. They shouldn't be asking for any proof of disability, nothing like that. So, but if you just want someone to return your ballot because you don't have time and it has nothing to do with disability, then you're supposed to return your own ballot. There are drop boxes in some municipalities. It just varies. And again, just a reminder that that ballot has to be received by 8 p.m. on election day for your vote to count. If it's returned later, it won't count. If you want to vote early, again, it might have started yesterday. And you can check that website there to see where it's offered near you. On election day, all polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We always suggest that you go online and check your polling place or call your municipal clerk a couple days before to double check if you're not an internet user, because polling places can change. And so in the best use of your time and your, efforts, it's best to just know ahead of time. Bring your photo ID along to vote. And again, you can preview your ballot on that My Vote website. We also suggest that on My Vote that you can check your voter registration, especially if you haven't voted in recent elections. You might want to just double check. And then we always like to tell you about curbside voting. If you're going to use curbside voting, so voters with a disability who are unable to get into a polling place because of their disability have the right to curbside voting. But that looks different at every municipality. And so some are extremely clear and have a sign, pull up here, do this, and we'll come out and do curbside voting. Others have nothing, and that there's all sorts of other options in between, like a doorbell, whatever. Our suggestion is that a few days before the election, if you're going to use curbside voting, that you contact your municipal clerk and find out, what is the procedure for curbside voting. And if you do that, the workers will come right up to your car, 2 workers will come out, and you can do your entire ballot and everything. They'll check your ID still, all of that right at your car. If you have problems, we do have this voter hotline, and we would love to be helpful to you. You can also email us. So I want to talk to you about your rights as a voter with a disability. Um, every voter in the US has the right to vote privately and independently. And so you have the right to access your polling place, to get inside. You have the right to ask for accommodations like a chair to sit in or a signature guide. You have the right to uh, to ask for accommodation to state your name and address. So, or like if you're a person who isn't able to state your name and address, you can hand your ID to the poll worker and they can state your name and address for you. You also have the right to assistance marking your ballot. You can ask anyone you want to help you, except your employer or your union representative. Every voter also has the right to use the accessible voting machine at their polling place. That's what this is a picture of here. This actually was at an event where we wanted people to see the machine. Hopefully at your polling place, it should be positioned in a way that's not so public. Every polling place is required to have at least one accessible voting machine. And that machine can help voters vote privately and independently because it can read the ballot to you. It can read back what you mark. So that's a great option for folks. If you're a voter whose rights have been violated, you have the right to make a complaint and we can help you. I'm going to give you that hotline number again in just a minute when we're done. If you make a mistake on your ballot, you can request another ballot from the election officials. They'll follow a procedure with that. And you can bring a note sheet into the polling place with you. The last right that I'm going to mention to you is that no one should tell you who or what to vote for. And that includes if you have a guardian. If you have a guardian, your vote is still your vote. We talked about curbside voting. I explained it all to you. And can I still vote if I have a guardian? Your guardianship paperwork will tell you that. And we do have on our website, an explanation, a really nice document about guardianship and voting. And you're welcome to call us at the hotline as well if you have questions about your guardianship. But most people under guardianship in Wisconsin retain the right to vote. It's only if the court expressly removes it that you would lose that right. And then finally, I have all these voting resources for you here. This is our website. We're always sharing on Facebook current things. This is that hotline number. You're welcome to contact us if you have any questions or issues. This is how to contact your municipal clerk and the Wisconsin Election Commissions. And then here's photo ID info. And I'm up to the wire here. We have, I think, 2 minutes left. Does anyone have any questions for us? All right, then. Anna, do you have anything you'd like us to finish with?
No. Thank you, Wendy, for that, for your presentation and your part of that. It was really helpful. And I just want to thank everybody for coming today and keep an eye out for our next Lunch and Learns. I'm not sure when they'll be, but when they are, we'll get that out to you guys. And also, we will have an accessible version of our PowerPoint and a video. Sorry, a video or an. Can you help me, Wendy? Sorry, I got a call and I'm confused.
And we'll also have the recording of this posted on our website. So thank you so much for coming and for joining us. And thank you for voting on April 1st.
Yay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you both.
Take care.